balance sheet for the end of March. Yes, end of March. The general fund has 1.7 million in it. The special revenue, our grant fund, is a negative 38,000. Our district activity is 47,000. That's the school's money. Our student activity is 34,000. Also our school's funds. Our capital outlay is 45,000. Our building fund is a negative 220,000, and we're just waiting on our last payment in from the state to clear that up. The money's already been transferred. Our construction fund is $4.7 million. Debt service has 339,000 in it. And our food service has 124,000.
I'll make a motion to approve the munis balance sheets. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Monthly financial report.
All right, if you look at your monthly financial report, usually on page 4 or 5, you'll notice that I made it too big. Year to date is $6 million. This time last year was 6.6 million. Our total budget is $10 million. And then our expenditures are last year this time is 5 million. Year to date is 4.4, which you'll notice a decrease from the revenues that went down, so our expenditures went down, and still $10 million with a contingency of 682,000. I still think we're going to be close to between 900,000 and $1 million at the end of the year.
Come on, be confident, Lori. $1 million. Say it with me. $1 million.
No.
I will be happy to say that, Board Member Smith.
Any questions? Not, I make a motion to approve the monthly financial report.
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the monthly financial report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Bank reconciliation.
Our bank reconciliation this time for the end of March is $6.8 million. And 4.7 of that is the construction. That still leaves a reconciled balance of $2 million in our regular funds.
I make a motion. We approve the bank rec.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the bank reconciliation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Cash flow statement.
All right. So you know how to do this. I've replaced last times. And I keep reducing that down here, this 832,000, which kind of shows where we're going to be, so that you don't think we're going to have too much. But that's a very conservative number. I still think it's going to be right around 900 to $1 million at the end of the year.
Any questions or discussion?
I mean, we approve the cash flow statement.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the cash flow statement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. PDSA reports.
Okay, Chairperson would just very briefly would like for Miss Blackburn to talk a little bit about the upcoming assessment and just let you know where we are as far as assessment within for this school year.
You're gonna have to mute, Robin. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
K-Prep starting, start date will be April 22nd with your middle school 7th and 8th grade students, and runs through April 30th for in-person. And then we'll start our virtual testing at Botts Elementary for 3rd through 8th grade, May 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And those students will be provided transportation through the district if they've requested that. All third through 8th grade students virtual will test at BOTS, and our high school students, our 10th and 11th grade students take K-Prep on the 27th and 28th, and they'll be testing at Menifee County High School. Today, we moved forward and tested our end of course. So your CTE concentrators who were seniors tested this morning. We had a pretty good turnout for that. iReady assessments will take place for K through 5 students once we've completed K-Prep. And I believe the only other assessment we have left will be CERT testing. And that's your 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade. And of course, that's the ACT test that we give to stay in compliance this round with our Gear Up grant.
Thank you, Ms. Blackburn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Chairperson, the rest of them will be pretty much given, they're involved in the agenda some, so if there's any questions about any of the agenda items. And then facilities and maintenance report. Of course, Menifee Central is on its way for completion, and it appears that the substantial completion date is May the 28th, and we should be moving in furniture on June the 15th. We have scheduled to move from Menifee Elementary to Menifee Central, hopefully with a moving company at the end of June. And it does appear that we are well on our way for the opening of the 21-22 school year with everything up and running. The final phases of blacktopping, painting, the building looks magnificent. I'm going to encourage you all to go up and take a look at it at any time you'd like to do so. I have ran into a few water seepage issues on the backside by the bus loop, which has created some I guess some water permeating up through the blacktop surface. Walker Company is working with us. We're doing some core samples there to get everything up to par with that to eliminate those to those spots. But everyone appears to be working together to get that item fixed. But all in all, making progress and moving forward. And then the demolition of the current Menifee Elementary building, there will be a pre-bid around May the 25th, and those bids will probably be around May the 28th, and then probably we may have to have a special call meeting at the beginning of June to accept those bids, and then move forward demolition, probably beginning after our summer school program. Depends on occupancy at the new Menifee Central, but probably would not start no earlier than August 1st, maybe around August the 15th. So that kind of gives you a facilities maintenance report in a nutshell.
They gonna be putting sod down up there.
Yes, they will. That is coming probably beginning of next week, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any idea how long it's going to take the deconstruction of the old school? Has Murphy mentioned anything? How long that might take? Just curious.
I do not know, but I'm just there was a building that was torn down in similar size in a neighboring district here. I wouldn't think it would take over probably a month, Matt.
Wow.
That would be the goal, to get grass seed sown and get everything ready for the fall, to get everything.
We'll have to do the same, do some drone pictures of that in reverse, like we had the drone video of the school going up and have the old school coming down, kind of, the two sides of the same coin.
I would.
That's a great idea.
We've got Miss Blackburn. And with technology, and Mr. Stevens. So I think you heard that request there, Miss Blackburn and Mr. Stevens.
Sounds like I get to learn how to fly the drone, Mr. Spencer.
I think Mr. Stevens can help us get, or we got some SDLP kids that would be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Consent item.
Okay. Do want to go over them with you. Of course, the board minutes and the claims, pretty much you've had an opportunity to review those. Transportation for 4-H camp, they have filled out the appropriate forms. And then the FFA trip to Leadership Training Center, that is an overnight trip, and of course does have to have board approval. The next item on item 4 is we do have 2 representatives from the Gateway Health District, and we're very proud to have them in attendance tonight. We have Mr. Josh Farrow and Mr. Darius Standard, and if wouldn't care, very briefly, and they've been working with Ms. Franklin on getting this program started within Menifee County beginning in July. So, Mr. Farrow, anything you would want, or Mr. Standard would like to add before the board has any discussion or any before they take action?
Thank you, Superintendent. If you don't care, I'll just give a brief overview of the program that we've been working on. I'm Josh Farrow with Gateway Area Development District. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We cover Bath, Menifee, Montgomery, Morgan, and Round counties. In 2019, the Department for Local Government, which is under the Office of the Governor, submitted a medical IRT, or Innovative Readiness Training, application to the Department of Defense. That application was funded for our area, for the 5 counties that we serve. And the Department for Local Government has designated Gateway Ad as the local community partner and facilitator for this mission. The IRTs were established in the 90s under the Clinton administration. And this is a way to have hands-on training for military personnel within the United States borders. This mission will be for general medicine, dental, and optometry. We are looking at 5 sites, 1 for each of the 5 counties that we serve. 8 clinical days per site. Those will be July the 10th, sometime in the span of July the 10th through July the 21st. And of course, we are targeting, and the military will target individuals that have limited access or no access to healthcare at no cost to those individuals. And just for some additional information, Gateway Area Development District has submitted an Appalachian Regional Commission grant to help fund other affiliated items with the grant, with the mission, such as the leasing of space for the Menifee County Board of Education and the other schools that we are working with. But that's it in a nutshell. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What type of training will the IRT be doing? What will the military be doing with this program?
It'll be solely health related. So as I mentioned, it will be for general medicine, optometry, and dental. But I don't want you to think it's just for providers or nurses. It's also for food service personnel and logistics personnel. So individuals will be coming in from all across the country, and they'll be moving equipment from military bases. I believe the military base is out of Indiana, so they'll be moving that equipment that they'll be using. So it's a full service training, not just for medical providers, but for other individuals as well.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Farrow, on behalf of the Menifee County School District, we're very appreciative to have this opportunity for the community members of Menifee County. And we look forward to serving as a host, and we appreciate the services that are being provided to our community through your organization.
Yes, sir. We appreciate the hospitality and all you and your staff have done to help get this off the ground.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on along on the consent items, auditor's contract, pretty standard. We had to have auditors to review our for the 21-22 school year, and that of course would be Summer, McCreary, and Sparks. Program that we're very excited about. Mr. Stevens and Ms. Blackburn have been working diligently on getting DataSeam to where we will actually have a high school juniors that can apply to participate in the DataSeam apprenticeship program. This will be an expense to the board of around $4,800 per student over a course of a 2-year period. But when this student is completed, they would have over 600 hours of working hours in the field of technology, to where they could potentially go out, and once they receive all the certifications that DataSeam has provided, could potentially land jobs. They have had some folks between $50,000 and $65,000. So it's a great opportunity for our kids. We'll be seeking applications, and those applications will then be sent to DataSeam, and then they will make the selections on behalf of the Menifee County, for the Menifee County School District. So exciting that we'll be able to participate in that opportunity for our kids.
About how many people did you say that a minute ago? How many students will take place in that? we'll take
I
part.
think, Ms. Blackburn or Mr. Stevens, you might be able to answer that, but we can submit as many applicants as we want, but chances
Right.
are that probably one or two would be the maximum that Menifee County would be able to obtain.
That's correct, Mr. Spencer. To my understanding, it's one or two.
Do we need to allow for that money now, or do that later if they were to get funded or get selected?
That would be, tonight would be approving the funding if they do get selected.
So do we need to include some kind of number that, or just let it be general?
That's a standard contract. It would be a contract. And then item 7, just approving grants for food service. There are several grants coming along right now to assist within the food service program that Ms. Bartley and Ms. Ricker are working on. The other item, based upon our ESSER 3 funding, we did find out on Tuesday that we'll be receiving an additional $4 million over the course of the next 2 years with our ESSER 3 money. That will give us an opportunity to provide for the learning loss that's occurred and the acceleration of our students to get them back on track through our summer school programs, but also providing coaching, specialists, interventionists, providing all types of activities to get our kids back on to where they're accelerated back to where we want them to be. But in part of that, we would be creating a position of academic program consultant. That would be serving as someone that would go out and serve as a curriculum coach with our middle school and our high school staff members, but also serving as a liaison with principals to ensure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. And then the item 9 would be the job description for that position. And then number 10 would be able to create an additional high school teaching position. And from my understanding, that would be a social studies position that Mrs. Schwartz and Mr. Haney have requested. Also, on the next item 11 is the exceptional child instructor with its certification in VI. We were paying a contractor in the neighborhood of around $31,000 per year. Mr. Kincaid worked out and started doing the mathematics, and we do have a staff member that is going to enroll in a temporary provisional program to where she would actually have that certification. So for about, I don't know, $9,000 to $10,000 more, we can have our own VI instructor and provide instruction, essentially just not meeting the needs of the IEP, but going above and beyond. So want to commend Mr. Kincaid for finding that and also being able to provide an extra instructor within the district. Also looking at, we're going to have a lot of facilities coming on, and we're always trying to prepare when we do have folks that are moving as they prepare for retirement. We always try to have folks that are ready to step in and move into different positions. So we'd like to create a facilities director position. This would really be at no additional cost to the district, as well as the job description for that person. But we're going to have someone that's going to be trained in asbestos, pesticides, and a variety of other things within the next couple of years. So this would just allow for a smooth transition. Second reading of the policy for the student workers. This was the first reading that we did when we started doing temperature checks on our buses. And this would just changing that policy for our student workers. And then Mr. Kincaid has been working with Martina Rowe. We're very pleased to announce that we will be again our preschool program for the upcoming year. And we've already enrolled or taken applications for several students. And that has been going rather well. And we've already had we've already had some indication of some people that are interested in doing the position. And it appears that this is going to be a go for the upcoming school year. But first policy is just on preschool education. Next one will be a tuition. We're going to do it on a sliding scale. The scale was attached to your agenda. And then the tuition agreement form was just a procedure. And then the item 18 and 19 will be able to create a preschool teacher and a preschool aide position. Item 20, approve the non-traditional plan for the 21-22 school year. And this would be the 10 days that we would utilize for inclement weather or days that we needed to make adjustments to our school calendar. That is on the item on the agenda in a few moments. And also to approve the summer school pay rate for custodians that are working summer school of an additional 20%. That's just like we've done all the other classified staff members. Memorandum of agreement with Morehead State that allows to participate in their dual enrollment program. And then also Mrs. Pelfrey has been working on a waiver pupil attendance regulations for full-time or enrolled virtual students to where we will actually have an academy within an academy, to where we would have a virtual academy to provide an opportunity if parents wish to select virtual learning for their students for the upcoming year, that we would have that academy. However, we would love to have all of our students back in person learning, but this would also give them an opportunity. But there will be several, we'll be working on a policy and developing some procedures for the upcoming year that would be very stringent in order to be able to maintain and be a member of that virtual academy. Ms. Pelfrey, anything you want to add on that virtual academy?
No, perfect explanation. We're just waiting on the approval of that. As soon as we submit, then we'll get to work on our policies and procedures moving forward.
Okay, and if you don't care, go ahead and talk just a moment about the alternative calendar for 2021 alternative calendar.
Okay, so this is actually another waiver. There's all sorts of waivers going around right now. So this is a waiver to reduce the extended days that are typically required of students in the KEXAC program. So we typically, after our traditional calendar days are ended, our KEXAC students usually continue school through the end of June. So this would allow us to reduce those days this year and end closer to the last day of school on the traditional calendar.
And then item 25 would be the bids. We submitted those and we did not have any persons or any entities turn bids back in. So we'll use our KPC guidelines that's established by the Kentucky Education Development Cooperative in order to secure bids for the upcoming 2021 school years in those areas. And will also give us an opportunity to get the best possible price that we can possibly get on those items. We also, in order to assist with the high school and also with COVID, asked the board to approve a $200 stipend or $200 extra service for spring sports fund collector, which would be basically a gatekeeper to take up money. And then the last item would be to amend the extra service pay schedule as well as extended days, and those would be reflected on some of the positions that were created earlier. Those are your consent agenda items, and those are a lot, and and I think if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you. But once again, these are consent agenda items.
I have one more question about the data seam thing. I noticed in that contract, it talks about a mentor. Do we have people lined up to do that, or something schools are required to do? Will that be a teacher of the program, or will those be outside folks, specialists in that kind of field? I'm just curious about that.
I'll actually be the mentor for the first apprentice, and then if we do, I can be a mentor for 1 to 2 apprentices, and we can divide it up depending on just what suits our apprentice and our needs at the time.
All right. Thank you.
And also, Board Member Cooper, we have at the last board meeting, and we'll be beginning the interview process. We do have another tech position that will be coming to assist us as well. So that I would feel confident that our staff could provide that service as serving as a mentor.
Thank you.
Chairman, you have a motion to approve the consent items.
Any more questions or discussion?
I move that we approve the consent items.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the consent items signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve SPDM allocations for 2021-2022 school year.
Okay, these are going to look really familiar to you because they're going to be exactly the same as in February. Usually we change this, but we're going to be getting a lot of ESSER money and those type of things where we're going to use those funds for additional classroom teachers. If we put the additional classroom teachers on here, it's saying that we're spending that out of the general fund. So we want to be able to utilize those ESSER funds for the additional staff for the high school and the interventions and stuff that they're wanting at Menifee Elementary also. I don't think we've said no this year. I think we're going to try to do everything we can to support our principals and our teachers and our students. So if you look through this, it's the same as what you saw in February, and this is just through the general fund. It has nothing to do with your grants or all the positions. So there's at Menifee Central, there'll be 1 principal, 1 media librarian, 16.37 certified staff, 6.5 classified staff and I've got 603 of your final ADA, so they'll have $60,300 in their site-based money to spend. And the high school will have one principal, whatever that little percentage is of a media librarian, certified staff of 14.37, classified staff of 2. And I've got their prior year final ADA at 256, and they will be receiving $25,600.
Any questions?
And once again, Chairman, the principals are aware that this is a minimum site-based allocation, and just like Ms. Bartley stated, that once we give an allocation, it would have to come out of general fund, and this gives us some flexibility to where we could use some of the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 monies with this.
So
And also
that is going to get us a librarian.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms.
That
Manis.
is going to get us probably some librarian help for the high school. That looks a little slim there.
Probably not at this time, but that was not one of the requests that was made from that staff at this time. They do have to have a librarian at the high school, and they are utilizing 1/16 or 1/17 of a day,
Okay.
or 1 hour a day, essentially, Ms. Manis.
All righty.
And then I think we had one other question. I don't know where it came from.
It was from me. The only thing I was saying is, you know, even though we're allocating this money, it doesn't mean that we can't have a position added later, even if it's through general fund. This just says this is what we're committing to, right?
Yes. And you all have approved several positions, and then majority of those positions will come out of ESSER 3 monies. A lot of those will.
Anybody else? Not, I make a motion to approve the SBDM allocations for 2021, 2022.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Approve the 2021, 2022 school calendar.
Okay. Ms. Pelfrey, I think Ms. Pelfrey and the calendar committee, which was comprised of board member Cooper as well as principals, and I think that was represented by Ms. Means. We also had teachers on the committee. I think we had community members on the committee, and they have 2 calendars that they would like to present to the board tonight. One is a more of a traditional calendar, and then one is kind of a calendar similar to what we had this year that kind of allowed us to have some flexibility when the pandemic occurred. So, Ms. Pelfrey, I'll let you explain, and then I guess Ms. Means and Board Member Cooper, you all can have some, if there's anything you'd like to share on those comments. So Ms. Pelfrey.
Okay, so the first calendar that you're looking at right now, this is the traditional calendar. So this has us starting school on the 12th of August. We have some professional development days before our students come back to school on the 12th. Pretty typical to the calendars that you've seen prior to this school year. We take a winter break. We have spring break scheduled a little bit later in April, which is April 4th through the 8th, and hopes that we'll get some better weather this time. If you'll scroll down just a little bit, whoever's in control. So this is kind of the breakdown of exactly how many days that we have. So we have 170 days for students, which would be an increase compared to the current calendar that we're in right now. So the green days show you the professional development days that we have scheduled there. We have 4 of those. We have an opening day and a closing day for our staff members. And we have 5 planning or work days. And those days are typically used for staff members to review data, to do some curriculum work, and those kinds of really important things that keep us going in the school year in the right direction. So again, it's 170 days. The calendar reflects a total of 185 days. Shows you your fall break, the 15th and 18th, our Thanksgiving break, our winter break, and our spring break. And I just saw today that Mount Sterling released that there was going to be a court day this year. So we'll be able to take advantage of that festival this year with those 2 days off in October. So that's kind of a look at the traditional calendar. Does anybody have questions about this one? The great thing about this is it does let us take advantage of 170 days with our students in the building. And it is a typical school day where we're not extending, we're not adding minutes to the day. And I know that with the calendar committee, there were lots of questions about issues that have come up similar to this year. And the good thing is that our legislators typically take care of us in terms of any emergency situations that we have come about, just like with the emergency NTI, emergency days, depending upon the weather, health concerns, those sorts of things. So this does allow us to get in as many days as possible with 170 days scheduled. So if we can take a look at the second calendar, and this calendar is going to be very similar to the current school year calendar in that it's reduced to 152 student days. So in reducing the number of days that we attend, in order to meet the requirements, we do have to increase the number of minutes that we have students in the building, which is what we're doing this year. So we're increasing, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing, to 420 minutes a day, which does have our students attending school until 3:30. So it is kind of a long day for our kiddos, but we do have to get those minutes in order to get the 152 days and reach that requirement. So the 26th would be our first day of school. So this bill came about, and part of taking advantage of that is starting the week of the Monday closest to the 23rd of August. So this does put us at quite a later start date. Our last day of school then becomes quite a bit later on April 29th. I'm sorry, not later, but around the same time, but we are reducing the number of days to 152 days. We do have the same breaks included there. If you scroll down a little bit, it kind of gives a breakdown of how many days that we're in session. So we've 152 days for students. The calendar reflects a total of 167 days. We still have the 4 professional development days, the holidays, opening and closing, and then the 5 work days. And again, like I said, the breaks are very similar. In conversation with the calendar committee, our teachers, administrators feel very strongly about trying to take advantage of getting as many days in as we can earlier on in the fall. Those are typically the days that we know we can get in. And of course, you have the other downside of, and some people may not say this as a downside, but having the students in the building in additional time. And although we probably look at that as a positive thing, a lot of times it's not, because after being in the building and being in the classroom for that many hours a day, our students tend to lose focus. The pros that some of our calendar committee members saw to this calendar was the flexibility in the days and being able to reduce it to the required number of days. And my concern with that is just losing those days up front when we know that we're going to be able to get those days in. I mean, barring some kind of major event, we know for sure that we're going to be able to get those first few weeks in, and reducing it from starting the second week of August till much later in August, we are losing that time. And as I mentioned before, although we think that adding the extra 30 minutes on at the end of the day would be a positive thing, we had several teachers who did speak up and voice concerns about having students that late in the afternoon losing focus, and just that they would much prefer having them additional days rather than having them longer in the day. They feel like there's a lot more that can be accomplished with the additional days. A couple other things that were voiced, concerns that were voiced with the earlier start day, some things with community employment, people being able to take vacations. Those were the concerns that were mentioned. But I think we just have to look at the bigger picture and think about our kiddos and the fact that we need them in the building as many days as we possibly can have them. So, any questions?
Let me kind of add just a little bit moment, Board Member Cooper. We did a survey of surrounding school districts. I think we sent that to board members. Vast majority of districts are surrounding Menifee County are starting as early as the 10th of August. The latest one currently right now is starting the 25th of August. And one district will not be approving their calendar until the end of the month, but it does appear that they have indications in the calendars that will be submitted that all the districts surrounding Menifee would have at least 170 days in the calendar. The concern that I think that some people may have that it's kind of, it's a concern to me as well, is the fact, what if we get into a pandemic again and then have to rely on the legislators to, to allow us to go back to this flexible calendar. But I'm all for getting as many days as we possibly can in. And I understand that, there may be some concerns about what if we had a pandemic in Menifee and we only have 10 non and traditional instructional days, then, what would we do then with the exception, maybe have to rely on the General Assembly to assist the school district. But really, after looking at the calendar and getting our kids focused and getting them back on track, I would recommend going with the traditional calendar that the majority of the calendar committee proposed a few moments ago, but also do understand the concerns that if we was to have a major outbreak or whatever. But I think getting our kids back in school would be my number one priority right now.
I'm sure just went through, the legislature would be quicker to act than what they did last year.
I would assume that if we had a pandemic, another major pandemic, then they're probably going to have the same in some other counties as well. But I understand. So, and I know I've cut Chair Board Member Cooper off 4 or 5 times, and I've not done that intentionally. Board Member Cooper.
No, you're fine. My question is, if we were to adopt the alternative calendar, if the board was committed to being flexible in the first couple months of the fall, when those days are best, we can always shorten the day again, add days to the calendar, and maximize our time, make this alternative calendar look somewhat like the traditional calendar while maintaining flexibility if things do fall off a cliff. And so, and a lot of against the traditional calendar, I'm not against it. I'm 100% for getting our kids into school. It's a good place to be. We get meals, we get education. I want our kids to be in school. I also want to be prepared for the unpreparable. You can't prepare for something you don't know, but we know that this could happen. And all the people I talk to in the community, medical and otherwise, thought flexibility around that was important. And so I know we all agree, we're all hearing a lot about that we should go traditional calendar. But I think if myself and the other 4 board members would be willing to look at the calendar again in September, look at it again in December, look at it again in February, if things didn't fall apart, we could shorten the day back and get that number of days from 152 to 167, 165, 160, whatever, a big number that's pretty close to 170, and still maintain the flexibility that I've heard that was necessary. And so I said all that to say, I'm curious about Julia's thoughts as a medical professional, where we stand pandemic wise, if the flexibility is necessary in her opinion. If it's not, I'm curious about that, because the people I talked to in the medical field thought that flexibility was key, that it's liable to be a bad winter. And if we can prepare for that, I think we should. So I'm just curious what she thinks.
Board Member Cooper, before Ms. Manna speaks, let me just remind, of course, we all know we can change the calendar at any time. The calendar is flexible and it's amendable throughout the course of the entire school year. So if we get in,
if our days are short, if they're always short at the beginning, then we run into an issue of having to go into June because we lost lots of days. If we're long at the beginning and we don't need it, we can always add days, but it's hard to take them out. But we run into issues of getting enough time in. Potentially.
Yes. But typically speaking, once we get through the winter months and so forth, typically districts, and I'm just saying typically in my experiences, there has always been ample opportunities to get several days in after the, weather in March and April to extend those days. So I think
I'm less worried about weather than I am
right.
a rehash of COVID 2.0, and that's why
I think we're at 3. 3.0 at
Right.
this point.
Right. All right.
All right. Julia, I think I jumped the gun, so.
Okay, so what I see happening is we're starting another surge, okay? But I think it should be resolving by the time we hit August, because the surge is simply not going to be as big because our at-risk people are in the main immunized if they so choose. So, and we'll also be promoting, immunization from the 16-year-old and up group, which may protect some little brothers and sisters. My thinking is that for stability's sake, what we do is go ahead with the traditional, and then if we find that come the 25th of July, we're halfway, or the 19th of July, we're halfway or a bit into July, and we see that we're having a surge, and that we're either going to give virtual days because we're starting a traditional calendar, that instead we revert to a long day calendar at that point. And it's not that I want to keep everybody up in the air about calendar. I mean, because I think traditional calendar sounds like our best option. I'm pretty sure there's some studies that show, and it always made me nervous that we added extra minutes to the day, because what do you do with 15 minutes? Add 1 minute to each class or 2 minutes to each class during the day or something. I mean, I'm not really, that much of a schedule hawk, but I can't see where 1 or 2 minutes is better than coming in fresh the next day. I can always see the positive of that. I just think we need to keep our thoughts open, because I don't want us to start virtual because we're in the red.
Right.
It's a long distance from the surge that we're beginning to see to being in the red, but Bath County just dropped plunk right into the red. So, whether that had to do with spring break, if that had to do with their other activities in the community. I know it's not at their nursing homes, and it's not at their extended care or their extended living facility or their assisted living facility. So it's really just shotgun throughout the community in Bath County right now. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, Matt. I'm thinking keep traditional. If we find that we're going to have to start virtual, go to a non-traditional longer day, because in the classroom is more important than virtual. That it takes a non-traditional calendar to get kids physically in the building. We need to be able to move to that. Is that too up in the air, Mr. Spencer?
No, let's add that. Let's add that to go ahead and get on a list somewhere for our July board meeting or our June board meeting. Have an update from Gateway Health or whomever need to, and just that's a good compromise, a good idea, Julia. Go and improve traditional today, and then have a serious look at it. Not just wait for something, have a discussion about it in July or whenever we need to. That's a good idea. That's good with everybody else. That's a good idea to me.
Well, with me,
This last year.
I just want everything to return to more normalcy.
Yes.
We all do.
Oh yeah, even if we have to deal with this, and part of the thing is our kids have had to sacrifice a whole lot, and I know going a little bit extra is not a lot, but it's a whole lot in a math. I do have to say, a lot of kids, parents are telling me they're coming home wore out just from having to wear the masks all day and get back in the groove and all that kind of stuff. And so for me as a parent looking at it, I want my kids to be in school as traditionally as possible, as much as possible. But I mean, I'm ready to get this thing over with and let's resume our lives. So I'm 100% for traditional.
Right,
That's
so
Exactly.
I like to see it on June's meeting or something, or July, or a special call, and just review it. I don't want to be unprepared. I'm all for normalcy, but I'd rather err on the side of talking about it one too many times as to let us sneak up on us again this time.
I think before we have to submit a calendar by May the 15th, I would suggest
we could approve one, but then
and if
let's,
you
as a
want
board, review it
if we want to have a review in June or July or somewhere August, then we could do so. But we do
I'd like
have
to see that. That's a personal thing, but
okay. But we do have to approve a calendar this evening, and then we can, if we need to bring it back before, then we can do so. Which naturally it would come back before if we did have a pandemic in July or August. I'm by no means, as superintendent of this school district, would ever put any kid in any harm's way or any staff member upon that. So we would make adjustments if needed at that time. I just want to assure you all that under my leadership, that at no time do I ever intend on putting any kid or any staff member in any jeopardy.
Mr. Spencer, my question to you is, do you have any hesitancy with our greater community members that we're, maybe writing this more in pencil than in Sharpie, how our school year is going to look? Is that bad form for us? I mean, do we need to be more decisive? I think we should be able to do this, and it makes sense to me. That's why I brought it up, but I don't want to.
I mean, we went down and done surveys of additional counties and so forth, and I think everybody's headed in the same pathway that we would be. But like I said, I'm open to, I'm all for my recommendation is I've stated before, approve the traditional calendar. If we need to come back in July and take a look at the calendar, if we've got a severe crisis going on and we need to make adjustments to the calendar, then we could definitely do so. And we can have, Matt, I don't care a bit on the July board meeting, and as long as it's okay with the chairman, as he's the one that would kind of dictate the agenda of having a report and see where we actually are with COVID cases. Because once again, I'm by no means going to put anyone in any harm's way or any intentions.
If there's going to be an outbreak, we're going to act accordingly. We don't know what the future is going to hold just yet. So we'll just
I
get there.
Sorry, Greg.
You're
Sorry,
fine.
Mr. Chairman. I didn't mean to cut you off. That was an accident.
You're fine.
With the calendar we approved today, what sort of flexibility, and maybe we talked about this in the calendar committee meeting. If we did, I apologize. I missed it or zoned out. What sort of flexibility do we have aside from the General Assembly to work around that traditional calendar? Is there a chance to change it back to the alternative one? We can't change it. Once we approve today, that's the calendar we're in for the year. What's our flexibility with that? If come July 15th or August 15th, we're in the red for a month straight. If we have a traditional calendar, how do we decide those 10 NPI days?
Yeah, as superintendent, Matt, if you do approve the traditional calendar, then I would have as the authority to work with our board members and make adjustments to the calendar. You can amend the calendar at any time. It's just like a snow day. If we had a snow day, I call off school, then you all have to amend the calendar prior to the end of the school year. So at any time, if we felt that we needed to make adjustments to that calendar, that could automatically come before the board.
But we're still required 170 days. We can't switch to the other calendar, 152. We're still
required to 1,062 hours is what you're required for.
Even on a traditional calendar?
On a traditional calendar, you're required 1,062 hours. Is that correct, Ms. Belfry?
Then
Ms. Belfry,
all right.
Yes.
1,062 hours, is that correct?
Yes, and that without adjusting the actual length of time that we go during the school day, like we discussed, the 170 days is the typical amount of time that we would be in school with our usual bell schedules.
And
So in September, we can make the day 30 minutes longer if necessary, or at the end of the year, and be there for 162 days or 152 days. All right.
Absolutely. And you got to remember,
I was mistaken. She wasn't. She was right.
You got to remember also, Board Member Cooper, that we have 10 NTI days in the calendar that would also permit us that we would just have to do 170 of in-person instruction. So you would typically have 1,062 hours, pretty much minus probably 700 hours, something like that, Ms. Pelfrey, is my math off?
That sounds about right. And we are also with this calendar.
That's 700 hours, that's wrong.
70.
Not 700 hours. Let me do some math real quick.
scheduled to get out pretty early in May. So if we did have cancellations and needed to add on additional days, we would have plenty of time. We have several weeks there at the end of May that we could add on some extra days if needed. And like you said, we'll hopefully have the 10 MTI days that we can use as well.
But as superintendent, board member Cooper, I can adjust the calendar as we did needed. And once again, I would communicate with y'all, and it is 70 hours instead of 700. I don't know where my math was messed up there.
When it comes to math, I just agree with you, Mr. Spencer.
Yeah, I know. I led you head astray just then.
Okay.
I'm finished. I wanted to ensure we could get some flexibility. I want to talk to Julie about it. And if we can have flexibility and Julie is happy from her perspective, the two things I was concerned about, we've dealt with, and so I'll be quiet.
Okay. All those in favor, Dale, do you have a motion to approve the
I
traditional?
move we approve the traditional calendar for the 2021-2022 school year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the 2021-2022 traditional school calendar signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve high school prom protocols.
Make sure I'm not muted. Okay, I do have a discussion item with you. I do want to let you know that, first of all, we've worked very diligently to get the prom at Menifee County on May the 1st. We do appreciate the cooperation of all of our parents, our high school staff members, of everyone involved with getting the prom and getting our kids to where we're actually going to have a prom in Menifee County this year. The prom will be held on May the 1st. Pray that the weather is great. Pray that the sun is shining. Pray that it's about 65 to 70 degrees. We do have a tent rented from Purdon Rentals out of Lexington. It does have tables with it. We have the prom committee actually has food coming out of Mount Sterling. We have a variety of we got a DJ. They've got this thing ready to roll. The kids know that they have to wear a mask, that we're going to practice all the social distancing protocol. But we also have an opportunity, and this is the reason I wanted to bring it before the board this evening. Everyone is concerned about COVID, me included. Proms makes me a nervous wreck. I'm extremely, I'll be glad when the prom is over, and then I'll be glad after 5 days and we have 0 cases in Menifee County and we did not have any type of a situation with our prom, because we've got great kids, we've got great staff, and we want to provide them. And just like board member Smith stated just a moment ago, is we want everything to get back to normal as we possibly can. And just like you all, when you approved your school calendar. But we do have an opportunity to potentially provide COVID exams, rapid tests for all of our people that would be participating in the prom. It would be through a grant with the Kentucky Division of Public Health. There are several options that we could choose. We could have an option to test every single person that is signed up that it would be going to the prom. We would have an option of just signing up and having those students that are participating. If you're coming to Menifee County High School and you're in the pod and you want, then you would not have to you would not be responsible for getting the COVID vaccine. Or if you may want to have a protocol of, if you're a student that is coming to prom as a date and you're not from Menifee County and not been in the pod and not been in part of the virtual as far as softball, baseball, and our track and field team, then you would have an opportunity to do the COVID testing. Or you could have an opportunity to have a motion to give me some guidance. Do you want to have volunteer to where we could have the protocol set up that if parents, I'm sure that every parent, once they go out and spend hundreds of dollars on dresses and corsages and tuxedos, that, there also is that comfort level of is my son or daughter going to get COVID after this prom? And once again, I'm going to assure you and Ms. Schwartz, Mr. Haney, and our entire high school staff and all of our people that are on the prom committee, we're going to do our very best that we possibly can to ensure that that does not occur. So what we would kind of be looking at, and we just wanted to let you know that that option is available, that you could either test all the students, that they have enough for that. You might want to test the students that are virtual and not from Menifee County, or test people that are not from Menifee County, or make it voluntary basis, or just say thank you to this organization that has offered to provide this service, and we will proceed with our protocols. But that's kind of what we have in a nutshell. We have spoken with the public health for the Gateway Area Health District. We've had conversations with them. We've followed the Safe at Schools guidance, and that's one of the reasons that we're spending several hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on a tent that will be put up at Menifee Elementary on May the 1st. But also, we also want to ensure that we're doing everything that we possibly can to prevent the spread of COVID in Menifee County. And, our community now should have the opportunity of 16 years and older, should have the opportunity now to go and receive a vaccine if they choose to do so. And I would encourage everyone that they possibly, I think I've got 22 people that are listening to this cast right now, plus, 18 participants. And if you've not had the vaccine, I had it. I got very sick after the second vaccine for 1 day and a half. And so far, it's nice now that I feel halfway comfortable going out and being able to resume some sense of normalcy. So those are the options on the table. Once again, I'm not a medical provider. I'm very concerned. I'll be straight up with you. I would be very concerned about the COVID test with the rapid test, just due to the fact of the reliability, I've heard anywhere from 65 to 85%. So there's kind of my spiel on it. From what I gather, I wouldn't assume that everyone would want every single person tested for the prom or have virtual. It's going to be all over the board, and that's why I wanted to bring it before the board. That way I could kind of have some guidance on it. So I guess, Chairman, that's where we are. So, I guess without a motion or any I guess we want to have some discussion, but if there's, I know our board attorney's on here, Jonathan Shaw. I guess without a motion, I guess we would just proceed with prom and follow the Safe at School Healthy guidelines and do everything that we possibly can to prevent the spread of COVID. So there's my spiel in a nutshell, Chairman Spencer.
Any thoughts, discussion? No, guess anybody make a motion to approve the high school prom protocols? Not, I'll make.
I was gonna say, what I was thinking is I think it's almost unfair to test more students than we do for all games or, students that are in our buildings. I think if we tested anybody maybe out of county, but our students here, I just think it's unfair. If they play on a ball team, they don't have to have a COVID test, or if they attend our school regularly, they don't have to have one. So I will think it's unfair for us to ask them to do that to go prom. But that's
right. In person all the time, and they're playing their sports. I don't see any need to test them. Maybe, like you say, if they're coming from out of county, that's my spiel on it too.
I would suppose that it's not about fairness first. It is about safety and health and making sure people live a healthy, long life, that we don't have any premature deaths due to COVID. So first off, it's not a matter of fairness. That isn't the reason that the question's been brought up. So I want to clarify that. The reason that any question is brought up is because prom behaviors are not traditionally the same as in school or even sports behaviors. Socializing means that you may move in and out of pods that you're usually not in. You got a bunch of friends at school. You go and maybe spend time with these friends, or you have a team group outside of school and you may spend time in that team. But this would be like the baseball team or the basketball team or people that aren't in their usual pods and they're not also in a setting, in a school where you're expected to stay 3 feet apart, you're expected to wear your mask. Prom brings out different behaviors. And so that is where the increased risk comes from. You know, dancing, laughing, talking, and having a great time is the goal. And we're promoting as healthy of an experience as possible by saying that we're offering COVID screening. Now, I think I am gratified and feel really very strongly that I'm watching school districts that are not making it outside, are not making sure people are wearing masks, are not making sure that there's hand sanitation stations around, that are just, not being as conscientious. So I already compliment our school system for being as conscientious. I just I don't like that term fair, because it's not a matter of fairness. It's a matter of safety. People haven't felt confident in being immunized for different reasons. So you can't say, well, if you wanted to be immunized, you could be immunized. Or you can't say that, well, we can immunize students, because we couldn't. There would be no way for students to be immune between now and the time that prom occurs. So it is about safety. And I do think that we improve our safety by testing people outside of our virtual and usual Menifee County schools, non-virtual Menifee County school students. Now, they're going to be the toughest to maintain a HIPAA system before they come, because we could do this in school where everything can be handled privately. If we're doing it on the way into the prom, it's going to be harder to keep it private. So you have to give me a plan that would work with just testing Montgomery County, Bath, or around, whoever comes from out of county students when they come to our prom. That is going to be effective, because that's going to be actually the tough part there.
Board Member Manis, let me ask the question. If it was, and I'm not trying to get into, I respect everyone's opinion. I mean, this is what it's all about, diplomacy and making sure at the end of the day that we all, it's okay to agree to disagree. Is there a way that if people wanted to have the vaccine on a voluntary basis, to ease the mind of folks and so forth, would that be a possibility? And I'm just throwing some scenarios out at you.
Vaccine or testing?
Testing, I'm sorry.
Right. Yes. I mean, and I don't even mind taking off time off of work. I don't mind training some volunteer nursing staff, or getting the nursing staff that's already at Menifee County, getting them trained on using, this is and I can never say the word right, BIANX, which I want to say Bianx, but I think they say it a little different when other people talk about it, but I can't make my mouth make that motion. It is, a statistical conundrum, because when you're in a high risk population, the sensitivity and the specificity of the test go up, because you got something to find. When you're in a really low risk population, it's going to be a little bit more trending to get a false result. The test itself is more likely to give a false negative than a false positive. So maybe the biggest disadvantage of testing people have to do with the fact that we are going to give a false sense of security, and that might be the biggest disadvantage of doing the test. But it's just, not every school board has a healthcare professional sitting on the board, or school boards have ducked their responsibility to their students by honestly knowing that there's going to be proms outside of the school system, and therefore just deferring all responsibility. So I'm glad that we're not doing that. And I do think we're already taking the maximum number of measures. Anyone who ever wants to be tested, there is testing almost within hours of request, anywhere in our county and outside of our county. And of course, if we want to set up a station for students to be voluntarily tested, I went to a track meet in Louisville, I don't want to go to prom if I'm going to get people sick, type story happens, I want to make that available too, because we talk about it sometimes as we're removing a freedom, but we give people the freedom of going, I'm not sick. Oh, I'm not going to make somebody else sick. Oh, I'm not going to go home to my grandparents and make them sick, because we know that we have some non-traditional custodial parenting going on in the county. Not everybody's going home to somebody in their 30s, 40s, or 50s at the end of the day. That we do sometimes go home to people that are in their 70s, 60s, and 70s, you know, who are a little bit higher risk of actually getting sick if they contracted COVID.
And one of the comments that I've been sitting here communicating with someone did state that some schools were not allowing students from out of the county to actually attend their prom. So based upon the conversations that I'm hearing from our board members and respecting everyone and making sure that we all are on, of trying to prevent the spread of COVID and trying to do our due diligence, would there be any issue with it? It doesn't appear that everyone's going to be in favor of testing everyone for COVID. It doesn't.
Well, can we just, I'm sorry about that. And Julia's made good points, and other people, in fairness, maybe that's not always the best way, but in fairness, and she's right, it's not about fair, but is a happy medium, and this is the question, is a happy medium testing those from outside the county and not inside? I don't know if that's.
Matt, that was going to be my recommendation to the board, was to test students from outside Menifee County, and then see to ease the mind for parents that have elderly folks within their households, to have them do a voluntary test to make that available. I don't know, Julia, that may not even be available, but it appears to me like that would be a logical, I'm not saying compromise, but an opportunity that we're doing our very best because these kids are in the pod, and knowing that, we are doing the very best we can to prevent the spread of COVID. I know 100% fact that probably if we tested every student that was at the prom would probably be our best bet of that, but it doesn't seem that we're all in agreement with that. And I guess I'm going to have to probably go on that direction as well, just due to the fact of logistics and things of that nature. And you and I've had several conversations about it, and I'll be honest, I will be tickled to death when the 10 days on May the 11th and we don't have any cases. I'll be very happy, but I think there's a way that we can all come to a reasonable solution and to where we can at least provide comfort for our parents and our kids.
So maybe the proposal that I would put out is this. I would propose that any students who believe they're at risk of having recently contracted COVID, and those risks include more travel outside the county, outside the state in the 10 days prior to prom, or anyone who wishes to, but we'll kind of give some guidance there. We'll say that there's definitely some things that are more risky than others. Like I said, I don't know what the track schedule is, and I can't imagine our baseball team really going outside of Eastern Kentucky. It's more like track that seems to travel the bigger distances. But anyway, if a person has traveled outside of their usual pod, which is the school and their family, in the 10 days prior to prom, that we offer them confidential COVID testing so that they can decide safely to attend prom or not. And second, that we request that all visitors from out of county be tested prior to attending our prom. How's that for a proposal?
I think that's a reasonable request, Ms. Manis, because like I said, we're one of very few districts across this area that are allowing people from outside of their home district to attend. So I think that's a very good compromise. And I know we've got some comments on Facebook that are questioning, as far as, of requiring a test for people outside Menifee County. But our kids have been involved in the pod and been involved and been exposed to that pod, and hopefully we can keep that there. But we do appreciate the offer of the organization that would be providing the test for us. And I guess at this time, I know we've got Mr. Haney and Mrs. Schwartz on here. Any comments that you all would like to add? Would that be feasible to test that out? And I don't know how many we have. I think we're expecting between 150 and 200 students was a number that I received earlier this week when I did when I was speaking with the health department. And I don't know out of that 150 or 200 as to how many would it be outside of Menifee County. I can't answer that yet, but I think it's a very reasonable request.
As far as the high school goes, we want to make sure everybody is safe, well, balance of the social emotional, balance with the wellness. And we are going through with the guidance that we receive from the Gateway Health Department and the board. So we will honor what you all decide and help our guidance. And we need all the help we can. But we are going with what your guidance is and the Gateway Health Department.
And I guess another question that we just had here, define visitor. To me, a visitor would be if someone is coming as a date, if we've got a junior or senior at the prom. And Ms. Schwartz, you may want to agree or not agree with me. I don't care, you don't have to agree with me, but if my definition of visitor is different than what you may have, but my definition of a visitor would be that if I'm a student at Menifee High School, junior or senior, and I'm bringing someone as a visitor with me or as a date that does not reside in Menifee or go as a student enrolled at Menifee County High School, that would be classified as a visitor. Would that be
We've got to be careful with prom vocabulary, because when we say an outsider form, they hear that a lot. And an outsider form is anybody that's not a junior or senior. And juniors and seniors are our people that go to the prom, and they have to get outsider forms, and those are people that have to be brought in by that person. So let me explain the difference between an outsider and then maybe a guest outside of the school. So you've got an outsider form, and those folks that are not juniors or seniors are considered outsiders, and they have to come with a junior or a senior to the prom. So the difference, and then a guest, if you want to go with that language that you all are working on, would be anyone that is not a student of Menifee County.
Okay.
Right, because a sophomore being invited by a junior is an outsider, but maybe not a guest. Because what we're saying is they're running around in that pod, but they're not necessarily way outside of our pod.
And then the last question that I have, what happens, and this, of course, and I think this is an easy answer. What happens if someone buys a ticket to the prom and then their date is not from Menifee County and they test positive? Will we give a refund? And that's a very simple, absolutely, yes, we'd give a refund. I'd much rather give a refund than have them come to the prom testing positive with COVID. So 100% refund on that.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
so, Mr. Chairman, I guess you would need a motion, and with whatever the board members decide to do, I guess you would need that in the form of a motion, and or I guess Board Attorney Shaw, does the board actually need to make that a motion, or will allow the knowing the wishes of the board? And it appears to me the wishes of the board would be that we test students or the majority of the board, I guess, would say that we test students that are coming to the prom, that are not currently enrolled in Menifee County, either as a virtual or a in-person student, and that we also offer parents who feel that their kid is coming to the prom, but yet they worried that they may contract COVID, or that they would have an opportunity for a voluntary COVID test. Is that, or what would we need to do, Mr.
I think that sounds fine. Go ahead. I think that sounds fine, something along those lines, or you could just approve it, subject to the recommended guidance that was given.
Can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, let's say we're in the red by the time the prom comes. Do we want to change our thinking at that point? You know, and in the red is easy to get in Menifee County because that's cases per 100,000 people. Well, heck, you know, Menifee County only has 6,000 or so people to choose from to begin with. So it's easy to go in the red in a percentage measurement. So anybody have any in the red thoughts?
Just because we're in the red, we're still given an opportunity as school districts now with the new mandates and the new guidance that have been given by the Kentucky Department of Health, that we can use our discretion and continue with having school during those times. And we monitor those daily. We receive updates from the health department every evening. We know that over the last 7 days, I think our number right now is it 10 cases, Ms. Pelfrey, somewhere in that vicinity over the last?
With the numbers today, we were at 11 this morning, but I think after new numbers today, we're down to 10 now, and it takes 12 cases for us to go red. So it is a very small number.
We monitor that, and we know we don't know the people that has tested positive for COVID, with the exception of the ones that are within our, if we have people within the school district, then we do know those, but we don't know throughout the community. But we do ask, and we are kind of given some guidance. Is it in a particular area of the county? Is it maintained to a few households, or what that may be? So we are given a lot of guidance, and we look at this every Thursday, and if we see our numbers fluctuate, then we adjust accordingly. So I would assure you that if we have numerous cases in Menifee County, then yeah, we'll take a very serious look at the prom. But we have full intentions of having a prom this year in Menifee County, unless it's catastrophic numbers. Then the health department told us we couldn't do it.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Somebody who wrote it down, because I think I've got it, but I make a motion that we offer voluntary testing to any student attending prom the Thursday prior to prom, and that all guests from out of county or non-Menifee County residents to be tested prior to prom. When do we want to do that? On Saturday, or do we want to do it on Thursday so that they could go get a PCR testing if they want?
Thursday, that way it would give them an opportunity to go get a test. That would give them an opportunity to show that they do have a negative. Help me with that acronym, Julia, or somebody.
PCR, a negative PCR?
Yes. I would like to give them an opportunity to do that. So Thursday, I think, would be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the test could not be administered before Thursday.
Okay, motion. I'll second it. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Personnel notification.
Okay, and let me just reflect here on that. Once you test positive with that test, the rapid test, the only way that can be overridden is with the health department. They do have to provide that negative PCR test, and sometimes those can be. I have seen some organizations get those results back in a day and sometimes 2 days. So that would give them an opportunity to get that negative test. And then if you're out of county and you do provide that date, then that documentation would need to be. We'll work with our district health coordinator. We'll be at the prom, and Ms. Pelfrey and I, along with our school nurses. And that way we'll ensure HIPAA and all the appropriate safety guidelines and all HIPAA regulations are being followed as well.
And could I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to make sure that everybody publicly knows that, please, if you exhibit any symptoms, do not come into buildings or the school or any events, especially the prom or any other events that we're having. If you have suspect symptoms and that they're coming on, that's another thing I would ask.
Okay. And Ms. Schwartz, I do want to let you know that we're very appreciative of our student body. I think they've done a really good job. Our parents have done a really good job. Very appreciative of that, and thank you very much. So, Chairman, I don't know whether you've got a motion to approve, or I've kind of got sidetracked. I've been reading these comments from Facebook, so
We've already,
you all have covered all bases, it appears.
personnel notifications, I don't see anything on it. Monthly community report.
I will just say on that real quickly that we've had several members in the community that have contributed to the prom. Our prom committee has been very diligent in seeking donations on behalf of the Menifee County School District, and we're very appreciative of all the work that they're doing with that. Other than that, we'll continue moving forward and being a good community partner in Menifee County.
Principal update and instructional support.
Ms. Schwartz, anything you want to add?
Like I said, I am very appreciative of all of our community partners and all of you folks and everybody else that's been very supportive of our school system. I think we've all been working really, really hard to keep our students safe and then balance that with the academic wellness that they are so in need in. And I really appreciate you. I'd like to celebrate Lainey Stevens for being our Rogers Scholar for this year. She was chosen. We've started our spring scheduling, and we've got all kinds of great opportunities, better than before. We're real happy with that. K-Prep is the 27th and 28th. And of course, save your date. May the 1st is for prom. Graduation is May the 21st. The rain date is the 22nd. Mr. Haney, would you like to talk about CTE just a second?
Yes, ma'am, I sure would. I appreciate it. Just real briefly, we were able to coordinate and collaborate with MES and have an 8th grade showcase for our CTE. And basically what that is career and technical education, offering students, just start thinking about having those thought processes of, moving forward into a future career or college, whatever it may be. We realized that, college may not be necessarily the path every student wants to take or is fitted to take moving forward. So we wanted to have the opportunity for kids to really see what we're going to offer them potentially at the high school in terms of career and technical education. Like I said, all the 8th graders who are in person attended our school and were able to meet and walk through our different pathways that we offer. We also are putting out some virtual information to those 8th grade students who were unable to attend or who are virtual students. So we just really want to celebrate that. I thought that experience went very well. And, a lot of those students were back and forth between which pathway they want to be in when they were in high school. It was awesome to see that. And I think it was a great opportunity for those students to see what we offer. And the best thing about that is it wasn't all teacher led. We had some students who are in various pathways that are high school students, some who are finishing up, some are who are still in the process of taking those classes that were spokespeople for those pathways and for those student organizations to talk about some of the positive happenings that are going on. So we really were appreciative of that, and to all those who helped with that.
It's 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Ms. Means, I know you have, and Ms. Abney's on here as well. Anything you would like to share?
Just wanted to update everyone with our K-Prep schedule. Of course, we have a lot more grades that test than the high school. 3rd through 8th grade, everything's ready to go. And I want to thank Miss Ingram and Miss Stone. They worked very hard to put a schedule together for not only our in-person students, but our virtual students. And it starts next Thursday, and we're excited to get going. Wanted to give all of our middle school teachers have worked very hard to try to provide targeted services for our virtual students on Fridays. And happy to report that tomorrow we have a record high number of virtual students that are coming in to receive either small group or one-on-one instruction from our teachers. They have really worked with sending messages and calling and even doing some home visits to try to get some of those kiddos in that we've not seen in a long time. So tomorrow will be a busy day at MES. Last thing, we are going to carry through with a small 8th grade promotion ceremony. we put a survey out on Facebook and taking that information from some of our parents with following guidelines. We will have a brief promotion ceremony. We'll have to have 2 sessions, but more details will be coming out about that within the next week. So we'll make sure all of our parents have plenty of time to plan.
Thank you. Site-based minutes, any questions, comments on that? My battery's about dead. I'm trying to rush through this. So Menifee County selected is one of the 41 communities to receive funding from the Land and Water Conservation Fund to upgrade parks and recreation spaces. Any comments on that, Mr. Spencer?
That was there for an informational item, but we'll be receiving, I think it's the vicinity of $150,000 to $170,000. And it was to install lights at the Menifee County Park for baseball and softball fields. So I'm in the work of Gateway Area Development District, and all the work that they had in securing these funds through the governor's office.
SBDM council reinstatement.
That was just the informational item. Of course, Ms. Means has done a very diligent job in getting Menifee Elementary back on track. However, though, Menifee County Elementary or Menifee County K-8 will not be in existence. Once they do get their reinstatement back in October, it will become transitioned into Menifee Central. But I just mainly wanted that there to brag on the work that the entire staff, students, parents, and everyone has worked in order to get Menifee County Elementary School back on track and headed to the road to proficiency. So congratulations to Ms. Means and Ms. Abney and the entire staff at Menifee Elementary School.
Communication and sharing.
Okay, since your battery is about to die, we have several folks that have asked a lot about Senate Bill 128. That will be before the board at the May meeting. This is the supplemental school year, and we are now taking requests to check with individuals that parents that are wishing for their kids to be enrolled for the additional year. We are going to do a session next Thursday evening with Ms. Schwartz and Ms. Means and Ms. Abney and Mr. Haney and Ms. Williams, along with Ms. Pelfrey and myself and the guidance counselors, to answer any questions that we possibly can about Senate Bill 128 and providing the supplemental school year. So there's actually surveys out now. If people are interested in doing that, they have to submit their request to the board by May the 1st, and the board has to have their decision made as to where they will accept. It's either any and all. You either accept all the people that want to do it, or you don't accept any of them. You can't just select one or two. It has to be any or all. That decision has to be made by June the 16th. But more information about that will be forthcoming, and I'll send you all some brochures. If Ms. Pelfrey will remind me, I'll send that information to you all tomorrow.
Anything on Facebook Live or anything?
Let me double check one more time. We had 28 people watching, and we have one person that says he appreciates us keeping our kids safe.
Thank you. Anybody else have any?
Hold on just a minute. No more comments. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? No.
Nope.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Everybody have a good evening.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Ms. Schwartz, will you give me a call in just a moment?
Thank you all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks,